That's all good.
Yo, so James, we back live. Yo, I don't know what happened, but we back here in these streets. So James, you was telling us you being a first of all, I didn't even know you served in the military. Thank you so much. For
Yeah, appreciate it.
but yeah, you was telling us about who you were. You in VA. What's up?
Yeah. So veteran, Army, 8 years, two deployments, one Iraq, one Afghanistan. Entrepreneur, five personal businesses with 17 investments between North Carolina, Virginia, DC, five properties, well, four properties. I'm just trying to help people, man. And I'm also a therapist, so I do private practice as well as community-based services. So
Just been all around. How you got time for yourself?
Did you hear this, Joe? Did this? I
How
want
you
to say,
even
just say all of this and just skip over. Like not only was he in the military, he actually has been deployed multiple times.
right?
Not on that's just enough within itself. And
Right.
then he says, I own multiple properties, and on top of that, I'm a therapist. Like,
That's what I'm talking about.
what
That's
planet
it.
are you from, bro?
I'm from here, man.
I don't think so, bro. I don't think so.
That's how y'all built in Chicago. That's what y'all do.
Nah, I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, Rich.
And we don't do that in
They
Chicago.
close to me. They close to me.
We don't do that in
Yeah,
Chicago.
no way. Y'all don't do nothing like that in Chicago, do you?
Nah, bro. We keep it
Y'all do
simple,
one project at a time.
laid back. I get you on the East Coast. Y'all
One project at a time. We down here juggling sticks. Yeah. God almighty, man. That's what's up.
You've lived multiple lives so far,
Yeah.
in just throughout your life, man. And so, with hearing all that, why did you choose to become a therapist?
Man, well, to be honest with you, when I was younger, I was a ward of the state. So I was in foster care and group home. I emancipated myself at 16 years old. And being a ward of the state, you had to go through therapy. It was mandatory, like weekly. And it wasn't a good experience. I mean, I could have been a stubborn kid from the projects, but to me, honestly, looking at it now, hindsight wise, I know because it was a rough process because it was cultural reasons. He was an older white guy, unrelatable to me, age, of course, ethnicity, and then just, I didn't want to be there, so that was the difference in that. Fast forward, like I said, I did my two deployments, whatever, came back and I tried therapy again. This time it was an older white lady, and it was a similar process. It was unrelatable. It wasn't a pleasant experience. And that's part of the reason, too, why a lot of veterans would much rather go to groups opposed to individual therapy because it's so unrelatable. So for me, I just took that as a task to like, yo, I got to help my people. I got to make sure that I'm, I don't want nobody else to have those experiences and give up on the process of fixing themselves or, trying to grow from their experiences. So I took it on as a challenge for myself and, just to have positive representation in the field and to empathize and to show a lot of sympathy to that young Black kid that's, I look like them, or that man that is about to shut down because he didn't have any other resource. So, I didn't want that to continue to linger on. So, I went back, got my bachelor's, and then I went to get my master's and started that therapeutic journey after I graduated with practicum and internship and residency and stuff like that, the licensing process. So,
So I want to say for the record, you ain't just out here trying to help people. No, like you are licensed. Like this is what you are, a licensed clinical therapist.
Yeah, man, we certified out here.
Dude, like I feel a little bad, Chris, because I'm over here and I got a double master's degree, and I'm over here like, man, I really feel like I missed my calling because I want to be a therapist so bad. But I'm like, bro, I'm not going back to school for another master's degree. Now talking to him, he'd be like, bro, just go back.
It's worth it.
No, I mean, so it's the difference too. Is a lot of different things that are therapeutic. So you don't necessarily have to be a therapist to help people. Right now your platform is serving as a tool, as a therapeutic intervention for somebody. It's helping somebody. Somebody is going to listen to this and get inspired or healed or at least pushed and in a direction to where they want to do better, or at least take the necessary steps to address certain things within themselves. So you don't necessarily have to go back to school. Your destiny is different. Use what you already have.
Yeah, man.
So true.
to be honest, I actually enrolled in a master's program for mental health because I'm like, man, my thought was, man, maybe I could go back and get my doctorate degree in some type of clinical field, but they got that clinical field so on lock. If you don't have a bachelor's or a
Yeah.
master's, you like
Yeah. So if you don't have a master's, even if you had your doctorate degree, you would still had to get licensed.
exact that
Yeah.
Yeah,
take.
so it wouldn't even. Yeah, like for me, people ask me all the time, "Am I going to get my doctorate?" Nah, I'm good. It's the same thing. I want my daughter to be the first doctor of the family. I'm good. I don't really need it, and I ain't trying to prescribe medications anyway. So it ain't it wouldn't do anything for me, in the sense, to be honest with you.
So why do you think we need to have more representation in mental health before men of color?
Well, not just for mental health, but I think representation is important in many different fields and many different aspects. Even if you take some just recently as the riots and stuff that took place a week or two ago at the Capitol, look at all those internal uh, non-colored people coming out the woodworks now, like that's losing our jobs. It was school counselors that lost their job. It was police and military personnel, firefighters that lost their jobs. The system is so rigged and detrimental to um, the infrastructure of African Americans. So just imagine if those people didn't get caught. Those people would then service our areas and our children and our neighbors and our wives and stuff like that, with all that hatred inside them. So it's definitely important. But specifically to answer your question, if as far as mental health perspective, my approach or the approach of a Caucasian, an Asian, Hispanic, or whatever approach to mental health may be different based on the empathy, based on going through things. Like I can give you 3 or 4 examples right now of each of us. Like we just met tonight. I just met you guys tonight. But if I ask you when you were younger on weekends, was it customary for you to go to your grandmother house or your aunt house and hang over with your cousins to sleep over, and 3 or 4 of y'all in the living room, just playing all night? To me, as a therapist, that's not as relevant because I know I lived it. That was us too. But to other therapists, a Caucasian or Asian, that can be unstable living. You know what I'm saying? So those things are different as far as diagnoses, as far as treatment and stuff like that. Even if you think of ADHD, which is most overly diagnosed between African American young boys, and really is not. It's probably grief or trauma, and is displayed as ADHD, or is that woman teacher, Caucasian teacher, who don't know how to handle that young black male student. So again, representation matters in that sense, because we're able to identify what is actually going on within our cultures, even not just for African Americans, because I don't know what's going on in Hispanic culture. I don't know what's going on in Asian culture. I just know from case studies and what I've done, but I'm not Asian or Hispanic, so my perspective wouldn't even do them justice. Even if I was servicing them, they'll be better served by somebody from their culture.
So what are some of the issues that you see that men of color deal with on a regular basis?
I mean, it's a tough one, to be honest with you, because like, think about it. Unresolved trauma is probably the most severe and detrimental thing to our culture now, and it's undiagnosed within people, because we experience it so much as being African Americans that right now a lot of people are numb and desensitized to it. They think it's normal. Like, even
So
like,
what does that word desensitize mean? Break that down for me.
yeah, so we think it's normal. So it's pretty much normalized to, like let's just take last summer, right? 2020 summer. It was a killing of an unarmed African American man probably every 2 weeks. By the time you was trying to heal over one, it was another one in the news as soon as you get over that, so it was no time to grieve. So now you got men, or people for that matter, just riding around thinking like that, am I next? Or easily agitated or frustrated, or not being able to process certain things because, like, oh man, this is happening. This is what's going on. It shouldn't be that normalized. You shouldn't be able to say, oh, he got killed, let's move on. Oh, this person got killed this time, let's move on. No, we got to process those things. Something I often say is feel your feelings. And a lot of times within society today, we're not feeling our feelings. We're not processing our feelings just based on everything that's accumulating within infrastructure of the system and of course the media.
So, but you say feel our feelings, and I don't, Chris, if you know where I'm going with this, but you say feel our feelings. Most men, that's not even a phrase that we're even allowed to say necessarily do.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the causes to our detriment too, and it shouldn't be um, a chastised moment or a moment of equating vulnerability to weakness for that matter based on you being able to express yourself or feel your feelings, and being able to process them. Oftentimes the feelings or the emotions that one display as far as the man is concerned are the negative ones. Like, when he's mad, when he's angry, when he's upset, when he's irritable, but nobody knows really when he's joyful, when he's excited, or when he's happy, or it's certain ones that don't captivate that wife or those children or your coworkers or teammates as often as they should, just based on not wanting to appear weak or soft. So it all depends. And that's pretty much why I wrote the book, to be honest with you, because I wanted everybody to be in a position to express themselves, and not be judged for it.
So, what is it in our culture? And I remember for me, and of course, I don't know if you remember, but I remember um, specifically being told as a kid or as a boy, hey, you too soft. Hey, don't, you're like, hey, nobody want to hear that. No, nobody want to see you cry. Be quiet, shut up, you know, or you weak or you soft. And what do we do? Because I believe the socialization of young boys and causes this emotional lockdown or gridlock of young boys. How do we begin to teach young parents or parents and their children that it's okay to express your feelings? Because
Well,
children are to be seen and not heard most of the times, um, and that causes issues later on in life. I
it
often
does.
I often see white parents, right? We would not as black. I'm gonna just be honest. I'm gonna take y'all into black and Hispanic homes. When black parents see a kid acting crazy or crying, or they see Billy or whoever out there wilding, the black parent looked at us and like, "Hey, y'all better not ever act like that. Y'all better not." But those kids are acting like kids in those moments. But we the one who are well collected and look the part, but grow up with trauma and don't know how to express ourselves.
And that's the
Like,
main thing. The lack of communication and the emotional immaturity is stunned at those moments. Because realistically, you got to think, like you said, children are supposed to be seen and not heard, which means now that kid is going to grow up, and soon as he meet resistance or conflict, he or she wouldn't know how to handle it. Like, they think everything is an argument, or they think if they're told no, it's a negative, or whatever the case is. Those things start at an early age, and they continue to repeat that cycle. So we as parents now have to break those cycles. We as people in the community have to break those cycles. I know for me personally, my daughter, like, she's allowed to express herself because I want her to be able to articulate to me what she's feeling. So when she eventually get into the work field, she'll be able to communicate with her boss when she feels that she's not treated fairly, or she want a raise, or whatever the case is, or if she's out in public and she's asked to speak, she wouldn't shut down, or whatever the case is, because she knows from an early age, oh, this is how I communicate. It's a two-part. Okay, I got to express myself and I got to understand what this person is telling me, vice versa. It's all about comprehension, but that comprehension piece get left out in communication.
so how do we let's fast forward this conversation to now. How do we help the men, the brothers who are listening, who may have a past, may have either been incarcerated, may have gone through sexual trauma, may be dealing with all types of stuff. Like, how do we help them begin their journey to wholeness?
We have to allow them to validate our feelings. We have to validate them, and create those safe spaces for them to want to be vulnerable and open, whether you're the wife or the coworker or the teammate or the father, you know, the uncle. You got to be that person to say, let me hear what you got. Let me tell me what's going on. And you have to be open with no judgment. You have to be, you know, able to hear and just empathize, put yourself in that situation, and don't come from a place that is, I guess, chastising, but try to be a resource to them. If you don't know the resources, then assist them in finding the resources for themselves. But oftentimes it's not a lot of safe spaces for one to communicate based on his previous experiences. Because when he went to his last girlfriend or a chick he was talking to, she threw it back later. You know, so those things can happen within those conversations. Or when he went to his boys and he said this, they teased him. You know, so those things can't happen either. We got to create that safe space to where we're just listening, responding if they want feedback, or, you know, again, just being there, just being that support system without judgment.
That's love, man.
Hey, James, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
It's not off topic, but it kind of may take us off topic. A rough scale. What's the statistics of the men that you've made and women of being a therapist? And I'm actually a practicing therapist myself, so actually on the same paths. I'm in school now, getting my BA for psychology, and then I'm going to get my master's at Liberty. So anyway, what's your statistics on men or women that you've had to counsel through therapy for that's been incarcerated, had former trauma, or if you have any at all?
Over 50%. And I actually did my internship in school at a justice center with, you know, for incarcerated people, teens as well as adults. So if you want to count that entire year or so, you can. But outside of that now, within practice, I see still a lot of people going through recidivism, you know, returning citizens and stuff like that. So that's definitely important. But trauma and grief, again, is one of those things that are so common within our community that we don't recognize as being such. And again, those things can be so detrimental because people aren't made to not respond and react to certain stimuli that we're happen to see. And a lot of people, the misconception about trauma is it didn't happen to me personally, so I'm good. But again, like PTSD and acute stress disorder is something that you can witness. You know, it doesn't have to be something that happened to you directly. And to touch on with grief too, it's stages of grief. And you don't have to go through those stages like back to back or in order or the same way that the person next to you went through those stages. And I mean, just for education purposes to the audience, you got denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And you're no less grieving or you're no more hurt or less hurt than somebody else if you grieve differently, you know. So that's a misconception as well. People think that their process is the only way to handle things. And the same thing with trauma. People got different resiliency levels. So the way I deal with things might not be the way that you deal with things, but we together have to process different things.
I definitely agree with you, Rob. Remember we was talking a couple weeks back and we was talking about trauma. We was also talking about dysfunction. But to correlate the two, for me, I deal with trauma. I process it differently, and I actually don't really connect it with dysfunction. And you had asked a question earlier, like I guess back to really where we started, like how do we help men and women like get to the place of them being able to heal, get the wholeness that they need, and also overcome their trauma and whatever dysfunction that they may be processing. One of the things what made me want to dive into psychology, why I fell in love with it in the first place, was the way I was raised. Two, I was raised in a middle class, very poor. We didn't have much. Raised by my grandparents. My mom had me. She was 12. Yada yada. It's a long story, but I don't know why I just fell in love with psychology. One of the things that I also was impressed when I came home from prison is that our main stickler for men and women, and you know, pretty much with their mental health, is for them to just land a job, get an education if you need one, get you a home, whatever, get on your feet and just live and move forward. But I believe to really rehabilitate somebody and to really make them wholeness again is you have to take them back to where it first started, because you can help someone get on your feet like I did with my mom, and they're still relapse. So I was appalled to what how I healed and how I really got to where I am with dealing with mental health is from you and your perspective as a therapist. I guess when you're sitting down with someone on one-on-ones, or if it's a group session, like what are your pros and your cons? And when you're, I guess we call it chiseling, chiseling the rock, and to really get to the root, or what are you really looking for in the mental to get them healed, or that process? Do you take them back to deal with their childhood trauma? Because I'm the first person ever in my entire family to ever deal with a therapist or ever even go to therapy. And by the time I was 9 years old, 87% of my immediate family had then already been incarcerated or had pending charges. So I felt I was born into a dysfunction, not necessarily born into trauma. I was born into dysfunction to where they didn't know how to, I guess, deal with it and made it normal. So I was born into it. So I felt this was the norm of life of selling drugs. And then that was my steps. But no one put me down and said, nah, this is the life. So for me, I guess commercials was a fantasy for me. I guess that was a life I felt like I should have been living when I see commercials. But for you, when you're, I guess, dealing with people and their traumas and their issues, what's a good step? Like, what is your simple steps in saying, look, these are practical steps to get a person to be healed?
Yes. All right, cool. So you said a couple of different things there. One, don't forget when I mentioned people become numb and desensitized to certain things. And
Right.
you mentioned that too, being that
Right.
you grew up and that was normal to you, the selling drugs, their lifestyle and stuff like that, because everybody in your family, done it. So that was like the family tradition, basically.
Yeah.
But either way, processing trauma is different for everybody. So it would all depend. Some people, you would need to go back and dig into that subconscious, or identify the root of that cause. But some people also, so when you're in therapy, it depends on the presenting problem. So if we're addressing one thing now that we don't need to go back to, then we wouldn't. It all depends on that person and their resiliency level too within trauma and where you are now. So the theoretical orientation would dictate that. My theoretical orientation is CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, as well as reality therapy. Reality therapy is the here and now. Let's focus on here and now within your surroundings to make you better for the people vicariously around you, your children, your coworkers, your partners, or whatever, as well as yourself, opposed to something like going back, like Gestalt therapy or something like that, when you're dealing with, uncovering issues and stuff like that from your childhood, or, there's other theoretical orientations to where you do uncover certain things. But if we can address certain things now and help you process and move on, cool. But if we figure together within therapy that these repressed emotions might come up and hinder your growth or impact or impair you in certain areas, then of course, yeah, we need to address those things.
That's good stuff.
Bro,
That's good stuff.
how'd you become so cool? Like I'm listening to you, and I'm just like, not only you got a little street sense, hood smarts, but at the same time, like you're an intellectual brother at the same time.
So, and to be honest,
like no more.
No, they do though. But the thing is, people don't want to be themselves. So me, I'm authentically me. Like I'm not trying to be Dr. Phil. He's Dr. Phil. Yeah. I'm trying to be James Harris. My approach in therapy is like you see me behind me, like me wearing Jordans and foams in therapy session, because I know who I'm trying to reach. I know who my audience is. I know who the clientele that I'm serving. I'm serving that young boy that's has already had 3 to 4 therapists and they didn't relate to him. So now when he see me and mom says like, hey, you the third person, I don't know what's going on. But that first or the second session, we already breaking the ice because we related. We had that common bond because you know why? He said, oh, you dress like my uncle, or you act like my XYZ or whatever the case is. Those things happen. So
that's real.
I mean, I definitely appreciate the compliment, but me, I'm just authentically me, man. I want people to genuinely get help. And with that being said, too, a lot of professionals within the field, not just therapy, but many fields go through that imposter syndrome stage, where they feel that they can't be themselves or they are inadequate in certain areas. And that's not something that I am. I'm confident in who I am. I'm here. I got my degree like you got your degree. So we're here, you come to me, whatever the case is. So I'm gonna be me, and I'm not bound by certain oppressions, especially vernacular oppression. I'm gonna add my sprinkle of slang in there and everything that I need to.
That's
So
what's
Nick, and it's crazy you hit that. Let's talk a little bit about. I just want to hit on it real quick because I want to talk about next some strategies for men to make sure that they're good during this whole presidential kind of stuff that's going on and the craziness in our country right now. But I want to how you hit one thing, imposter syndrome, for specifically men of color. All three of us are professional men in our different industries, different fields. Um, and I appreciate you, man, because I'm actually a dean at a college, and I'm walking in there with jeans and J's on most of the time, and I'm tatted all up on my arm. It's a
come on, strap.
predominantly white institution, and I often am like, bro, you need to square this back a little bit. You need to, like, you got a cold switch or you got a whatever. How do we find the confidence to be fully who we are, um, and be confident in that wherever we are?
So, all right. Well, first I gotta throw that plug out there, man. I got a YouTube channel and I got a video on imposter syndrome that y'all definitely should check out.
Send
I
me the
mean,
link, bro. I'll post it. Send me the link.
yeah, it's tons of other videos on there too, but that specifically since you asked about imposter syndrome, um, that's why I brought that one up. But to add to what you said though, like we just have to be comfortable with ourselves. A lot of the times, we get to this position thinking that we got to fit in with a certain
Yeah.
criteria, and it's all a form of oppression. So don't be bound by those forms of oppression. Like I said earlier, linguistic oppression. Like some people think because you sprinkle in a little slang every now and again that you're not able to articulate. That's not even true. They still look down upon certain things, certain vernacular and stuff like that. And of course, if you dress a certain way, like me too, I got two sleeves, tie two sleeves, and they view you a certain way. Like even like I said, I got multiple businesses. So when I'm going back and forth to City Hall to get zoning permits or stuff like that, I'm in sweatpants and a cutoff tee, and of course I get the looks from the different people in the collar shirt and the tie and the polos or slacks or whatever. Listen, I don't care why you there. I know why I'm here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think for me, it's more so I know who I am and I'm comfortable with who I am. So it takes a lot for people to get there because they still are in institutions primarily most times where they still have to rely on certain instances as far as food or I can't lose my job because I got kids to feed or a wife to support. But for me, it's more so just being authentically who I am. And then
I'm self-sufficient.
yeah, that's to be honest with you, man. Listen, at 16 years old, when I emancipated myself, I said this to myself sitting on the edge of the bed at the group home. If they can feed you, they can starve you. So I never put nobody in a position to be able to feed me. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So
Well, you gotta say that again, bro. You gotta say it.
if they can feed you, they can starve you.
That's real.
So never put nobody in a position to where
Say
they
it.
can feed
Hold on.
you.
Gotta see all that for a minute.
Hey, he got to say that one more time. Say that one more time, James.
If they can feed you, they can starve you.
All right,
So
Somebody needed to hear that.
right there.
That's somebody's motivation. That's a
hey, listen, 16 years old, man, the edge of the group home. I made that decision to emancipate myself based on that. Like, yo, I'm gonna age out in 2 years anyway. Let me go ahead and get a jump start on this thing. So, just those institutions, those systems. Even when I was in the army, like it was the same thing. Like, dog, I don't want to have to rely on, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I got to do my own thing, man. So
They can feed you, they can starve you. Whew.
yeah, don't put.
I'm over here typing.
Yeah, that's another one. I'm gonna have to borrow that one, James.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna have to borrow that, dude. So real quick, man, because I don't I'm enjoying myself, enjoying the conversation with you, bro. How can we take care of ourselves right now in the midst of regardless of what people's political stance are, where they are, how can we take care of our mental health ourselves in the midst of all this chaos?
A couple of different ways. Specifically, one, you can definitely surround yourself with nurturing people, whether that's your children, your partner. Make sure that you got a healthy team of coworkers and healthy friends around you that will support you but not enable you. It's a difference. Oftentimes people get around people thinking that they support them, but they add to that detriment as well. So don't have no enablers around you. And of course, self-care, that's definitely important. So whether you listening to podcasts, reading, journaling, writing, exercising, stuff like that. Even though COVID's still going on, it's some stuff that you can do in the home or around your neighborhood, as far as self-care. You can listen to white noise. You can do deep breathing exercises. There's a video on that on my YouTube as well. And of course, you can get my book and do those exercises in there as well. Um, it's up to you on how you want to be fulfilled. That's the main thing, because it's all within perception. So proper nutrition is definitely important as well. Rest and relaxation is important. People gratify overworking, but how many people are actually resting and relaxation, getting that relaxing time? Like, I do a lot, but I also relax a lot too. I'm surrounded by my daughters and my lady, like, that's the only time I alter my schedule, if it's for them or for me, just to take time to say, yo, I need to chill. You know what I'm saying? And I can do that because my functions are running themselves outside of therapy. But now with virtual, I see my clients virtually, so I only have to leave the house some days. So I'm just in a fortunate position.
That's love, man. Well, dude, you're definitely out here impacting lives, changing lives, man. Guys, for those who are listening, James is an amazing dude that's doing a lot of amazing things. If you haven't, man, go grab his book. Man, just express yourself, an interactive planner. A guide for men and young and old. Go
Yeah,
grab this book. It will help you. It will be a blessing to you. Get it for your teens as well, who processing through life, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, man. Um, a whole bunch of stuff is going through people's mind. So go grab this planner, and I'm guarantee you it'll help you process through your stuff. While we're pubbing books, I'd be remiss if I wouldn't, put a plug in for Chris's book. Um, one of my favorites called Broken. And he talks about his journey after while in prison, and what's happened and how he basically rebuilt his life brick by brick. Um,
nice.
that's I love his book. There's a line in there, James, that Chris talks about. Uh, he was in a place where he needed to cry, but he couldn't, and it just is filled with so many little nuggets like that, bro.
Yeah, man, that's dope, man. I'm glad you was able to write that book, because often, it's so many people, men especially black men, that's going through what you entail within that book, man. Especially being broken, not being able to be fixed. That's the main thing. Um, so as far as my book is concerned, there's so many different topics in there. I got affirmations, goals, trauma, mood, displacement, grief, abandonment, crying, coping skills, healing, tough love, mentality, uh, insecurities, men will be men, boys be boys, misogyny, masculinity. It's touching on a lot of different things that often aren't addressed outside of like the barbershops and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, our partners need to know this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, the women we're dating need to know these things. So what I've been doing, and has been successful, is encouraging women to buy the book, giving it to their men, whether it's their son or their husband, and let them do a couple pages, and they give it back to the women, and then they process it over dinner at a date night or something like that. Just think about it, because if the woman normally go to a man and ask about his traumas or ask about his feelings, she probably be met with resistance, But if they're doing this as an exercise to enhance their relationship, she'll probably get a little bit further. So it's been a benefiting tool, man. I had this lady reach out. She's been married 40 years, a little over 40 years, and she said, "Listen, this is the most me my husband ever talked." So it just was filled with gratitude, man. Like, just the responses that I'm getting and stuff like that, just based on doing simple exercises. Because again, it's normally conflict when she asks them certain questions, but you doing it this way, they processed over dinner. It was a healthy exercise for them to enhance their communication, their relationship.
That's what's up. I got to get that.
Yeah, you're out here impacting lives, changing people's lives, helping people that been married 40 plus years. That's crazy. How does that make you feel when you hear stories like
Man, it's definitely amazing, man, being that I'm 34. You know what I'm saying? They've been married longer than I've been alive. So for her to even reach out and send that, was gratifying. Um, but that's another reason why I started the YouTube channel, because there was a lot of different people with similar questions. So I made the YouTube to answer those questions so people can still have access to it. Pretty much, that information, because a lot of people aren't on social media or don't know where to find certain resources at. So I just wanted to be a continued resource for people. So that YouTube is Mental Heal. Just type in Mental Heal and it should come up, or just go to my website and it should come up. The book is also at Barnes and Noble's, Target, Walmart, and of course my website.
so you guys go grab his book, and I'm excited, man, that all that you got going on. Before we go, man, I gotta plug my books. If
Come
you
on.
haven't, go grab one of my books. Just
Nice.
believe, just believe. All of my books pretty much are now available in English and in Spanish, so you can check those out. Just believe, the devotional, man, my baby, what every man needs to know, and also Little Brown Boy, that's available in English and Spanish as well. I'm excited, yo. I sold my first like bulk order of Little Brown
Come on.
Boy today. So a organization reached out to me and they're like, "Yo, we want 100 books." I'm like, "What?" Okay,
Nice.
that's like
Listen, man, that right there is gonna open the door. That's opening the door, man.
That's what's up.
yeah, man. So I just released my children's book, Little Brown Boy, and it's in English and in Spanish. And it's this affirmation book for children K through third grade, so that we could prevent some of this trauma happening by affirming them, affirming their identity. Matter of fact, while you on here, I'm gonna play this quick video, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna close out. Yo, so man, thank you. So I don't know if you guys got a chance to see that, James. I hope you approve as a therapist for those affirmations out here, man.
That's good
We out
stuff.
here trying to change people's lives and impact the next generation.
Nah, man, you already doing it, man. Even listen, with that many books and that ability for people to find you and want to make the change is definitely already impactful. We already changing it. We already creating a different cycle of people just with the little men that you're about to reach with the just affirming themselves, and to know that somebody that looked like them wrote this book. That's ready to be crazy, man. Like I speak at colleges and different stuff like that. So I'm telling you, it's coming, bro. Like if you already got that bulk order, is more gonna come. Like when I first got that bulk order, I'm like, all right, cool. I got excited, and before I even got that one process, another one was coming in from another male organization. So you're gonna get that same blessing.
Yo, man, we're out here trying to make it happen.
That's what's
We're
up.
trying to change the world, impact lives. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. Yo, you guys, James, you can find him um, all over social media. He ain't hard to find. He out here in the streets making it happen. Get Chris's book as well. These are amazing men doing amazing things. Yo, peace out, guys. We love y'all. All right, y'all have a good